let's talk about your boy Roy and his inheritable skills. So Roy is a damage-oriented slash turtley in some ways, emblem ring. So he gives you damage through strength and sword power, and he also gives you turtling or mitigation through holdouts. Essentially, he has one of the best get out of jail free cards in the game, and it's definitely worth mentioning, especially if you're doing an Iron Man run. If you're doing an Iron Man run, holdout is your new best friend and will love you forever as long as you love it. All right, so let's start with the basics. Strength. So you can get strength +1 for 500, strength +2 for 1,000, and then strength +3 for a whopping 3,000 SP. Now, increasing strength will increase the damage you deal with physical attacks, so this is universally good. Now, it is expensive. Like, strength +2 I think is kind of worth it, and then strength +3 is okay, but there's a 2,000 SP jump for the extra point of strength, and then from there, it's 1,000, so strength +5 is 5,000. Now, before you lose Roy, and this is important, you lose Roy in Chapter 11, and you do not get him back until after Chapter 19. So you lose him for like 9 chapters or so, because you count the one you lose him on. So it's a pretty long time to be without him. That being said, you still can get like strength +3 or holdout. You can get some crazy stuff early if you can use the well, or if you just have DLC and you get the free SP books. So you could get like holdout plus early if you want. It's pretty crazy. You can also just get normal holdout if you want to save 1,000 SP. But let's start with the strength stuff. So the strength, it's very simple. It increases your physical damage essentially, and it's pretty expensive once you get to strength +3 and onward, and you can get up to strength +3 before you lose Roy, so that's pretty decent. And then of course we have sword power. So this increases attack by 2. So this will scale 11 sword damage, which is an interesting feature of this because there is no tome power. Maybe there is in the DLC. I haven't done all the DLC stuff yet. Maybe they'll add one if there isn't. But at least in terms of early game accessibility, there's like sword power and lance power. And then mid game you get axe power. But you can get up to sword power 3, and that is +6 damage. So this includes Levin sword and any other sword. So you can have a magical unit who runs sword power and actually uses it, like makes use of it. So it's a pretty useful ability. If you have the SP for it, it's pretty good. It's obviously really good on sword units. Now this also factors into doubling and quadding. So if you double, sword power 3 is +12 damage. If you quad, it's +24 damage. And eventually once you get Roy back, if you hit 5k SP and get sword power 5, you're looking at 40 damage from quadding with a Brave, or just 20 extra damage from doubling. So it's a pretty powerful skill. Honestly, it might be the metagame. I haven't run it too much. I think I ran it on one of my runs, on like my 3rd run for Maddening, like base game, no DLC, and it's really strong. But this was before the well. After the well, you can get like the higher levels, which are when you start hitting crazy damage numbers. So you can have a unit who has relatively low or average attack and just boost their damage way up there. So sword power, definitely worth it. And then we have holdout. Holdout is crazy. So if you have 30% HP or more at the start of combat, you will survive combat with at least 1 HP. So it doesn't matter how they kill you. They can crit you, they can hit you with a bunch of attacks, it doesn't matter. As long as you have over 30%, you will survive. And then the increased levels just change the threshold. So holdout plus, it's 10% lower. So if you're over 20%, you survive. Holdout plus, if you're over 10%, you survive. Generally, holdout base is enough. Now, if you're staying at very low health, you will want holdout plus. But the basic holdout, if you're just playing normally, healing up after combat, fighting things, you'll be fine. This is more than enough. This also mitigates crit deaths. So if you're doing an Iron Man, this is your best friend, especially with the well. Okay, so you can get the base, you can get holdout plus. I don't really know that holdout plus is really worth it. Unless you're intentionally staying at low health values, I don't think this is worth it at all. And the highest I would go is holdout plus, and even then I think it's kind of a waste, unless you have a ton of excess SP. Alright, then finally we have advance. This is just a nice utility that allows you to move an extra tile to attack. So let's say you're like 5 move and a dude is, 7 tiles away. So you can hit up to 6 tiles away, but you just can't hit that 7th range. this would allow you to move an extra tile to leap the gap. So it gives your melee range that extra bit. As far as I understand, I don't think this works with other things. Like you can't use, you can't use like a 2-range weapon with this. So for example, if an enemy is 3 range away, you can't use this to give yourself, you know, move that extra tile to hit 3 range away. It only works with melee weapons, essentially. So it's still pretty good. It gives you a little bit of extra wiggle room for diving and repositioning. But there's definitely better things, but it's not bad. It's something that's nice. It's a nice utility, it's cheap. You can get it early if you want it. I don't really recommend it. I feel like this game kind of punishes aggression. Like you really get punished for moving deep into a position just because of enemy density, unless you have some crazy broken build that's essentially just destroying the game in terms of, you know, mechanics and what you have access to. But it is a good skill. So just keep in mind it's only for melee weapons, like weapons that hit at 1 range. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. Roy is pretty straightforward. It's basically strength, sword power, and holdout, and then advance as like an honorary mention for his abilities. The strength does go up to +6, but hitting 6k SP. So here's the other thing too, like sword power 3, that's +6, or strength +6, right? Like I'd rather have the sword power. But if you're using multiple weapon types, I could kind of get running strength, but it's very expensive and there's probably better options. So definitely like and subscribe if you enjoyed this or found this useful. Feel free to drop a comment as to how you use any of these abilities, and I'll see you in the next one.